Imagine if that dude doesn't make the All-Star game last year. And he looked like he wasn't going to. He was batting, I think, like 203 toward the end of May, and he ends up putting together basically 25 year from end of May on. That's a pretty absurd thing to do.
Article in The Athletic. You can check it out right now, and you can follow Stephen at Stephen J. Nesbitt, joining us back on the show. So, Stephen, why don't you jump in here? What do you think about what we were just saying as you've been able to kind of go through each player here and how young they are? But what were your thoughts on Julio Rodriguez? Because you ended up putting him, number 2 on your list?
Yeah, I mean, he ends up being kind of a slam dunk addition to what I'm doing, because I was picking a player per position, so it wasn't really like a number 1, number 2. But I had him as a starting center fielder, where you could argue Michael Harris the second also deserves it. They had kind of similar seasons in that they started really slow and then took off down the stretch. But I mean, I think the point that AJ's making about Julio is a good one. Where imagine if that dude doesn't make the All-Star game last year, and he looked like he wasn't going to. He was batting, I think, like 203 toward the end of May, and he ends up putting together basically 25 year from end of May on. That's a pretty absurd thing to do. And there's a lot of pressure on a guy like that. And so this is my third year doing the under 25 team. And, I remember a couple years ago thinking Vladdy's going to be on this forever. Soto's going to be on this forever. And then those guys age out and they graduate, and we still have so much young talent in baseball today that you could put together a doggone good lineup with just guys under 25 years old. And so that's what we tried to do. And Julio ended up not being a difficult decision for me in center field. Tough position that he plays really well defensively. He's got speed, and he's one of the best hitting center fielders in the game.
Okay. Julio and Michael Harris. There's a large gap there. I get it. They had a similar year, but there's a large gap there. If you look at who I would disagree with that, but the one thing I would agree with, and I have to always go to my guys because I looked at this article, it's Gabriel Moreno. This guy could have an absolute huge, just like he did down the stretch, just like he did in the playoffs, a huge impact on this team making or not making the playoffs, because it will be reliant on defense, Corbin Carroll, and their starting pitching. Well, he's involved in 2 of those 3 main things, and I think he's only going to get better.
And you talk about pressure, Kratzy. I mean, this is a guy who came up in the Blue Jay system, top prospect, so much expectation, and then he got stuck behind 2 good major league catchers, in Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen, and there really was no path forward until they flip him for Dalton Varsho, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, you're the starting catcher now in Arizona. You've got some Cy Young caliber pitching you have to deal with there. You've got some really young pitching you have to help along, and he's a guy who I think caught everybody's attention last year with what he did defensively, winning a Gold Glove, and then in the playoffs was, one of their very best hitters at a time when some of the bigger bats like Christian Walker really struggled throughout the postseason. And if you recall watching the games, Moreno was getting beat up every single game and still managed to really make his mark and show out on the big stage.
Is this basically the All-Star team, the future All-Star team, let's say in 3 to 4 years? I mean, I know that All-Star game's in Texas this year. Carroll will be there, Julio will be there, Gunnar will be there, Bobby Witt's probably going to be there, Royce Lewis will be there if he's healthy, Moreno will be there. I mean, I'm looking at this list of this team. This is basically the All-Star team, right? Coming up in the next 5 years, you'll see probably every one of these guys on at least one All-Star team, if not multiple All-Star teams in the next 5 years. I mean, Corbin Carroll, obviously, Julio, Gunnar, Bobby Witt, Royce Lewis doesn't get enough credit when he's healthy. Evan Carter only played, 2 weeks in the big leagues before the postseason. Tristan Casas is a monster. McLain can do a lot of things. Moreno, you can make an argument he's one of the top 5 to 10 catchers in baseball. I mean, this is damn near an all-star team. You know what this looks like? Most of these guys are from USA too. This is like the USA Olympic team in 2028.
This is the Team USA. There you go.
I mean, seriously. I mean, if you look, obviously, Julio, Moreno, these guys aren't from the USA, but I mean, the rest of these dudes, this is the USA team in 28 in the Olympics.
Yeah, and what's interesting is as much as there are established dudes on here, I didn't even put Hunter Green on this list. He was on it last year. He could be there. I picked Brian Bayo of the Red Sox over him. I think we'll get more innings and more value. Who cares? But the bottom line is some guys that we don't know what they're going to be yet, right? Bobby Miller had such a good debut season for the Dodgers. He could end up being ace material for a team that doesn't even need him to be quite that. Gavin Williams, I think, has ace ceiling with the Guardians. Grayson Rodriguez, what we saw from him after he came up from the minors, he got sent back down. I think it was in the end of May last year, and was unbelievable the rest of the way. There are, as I was making this, you guys probably know this better, but there are so few under 24 relievers because you kind of wait. I think you just wait for the guys to fail a little bit as starters in the majors, and then the older guys get push to the bullpen. It means we have a backlog of starters that is crazy, and I don't think we had this back in 2018, right? That we had this many starting pitchers that we didn't know quite what they were going to become, but 20-year-old Yuri Perez is impressing the heck out of us, and I think, one All-Star game is a given, and these are guys that I could absolutely see having five plus.
Is there a ton of pressure on Matt McLain to do what he did or get better than what he did? Because the team is full of prospects, but he kind of stayed more consistent and outshone all those guys, including Scott's favorite in Elly De La Cruz.
That's right. Yeah, he was an interesting one, right? Because he came up first of the whole wave that came up last season. So he beat Elly up, Christian Encarnacion Strand. He beat up to the majors. Spencer Steer, I think he was up before him as well. And then they have Jonathan India. So the news from, I think it was just today, is that McLain tweaked his oblique. He's going to be a little bit behind. So maybe they are able to shift things around a little bit. They certainly have the talent and the pieces right now to fill out a really good roster. But McLain, surprised. I think if you look at his stats across the whole season, what he did offensively, defensively, and with his speed, that surprised me. I went into this thinking Edouard Julien would be my pick at second base. I really like what he does. I love his offensive profile. And then I looked at McLain. I said, I don't think I can really explain that one away. So I went with McLain. I just think the projection moving forward is that he's a really solid second baseman who can play a passable shortstop as well and helps you in every area of the ball game. So to be pushing a guy like India probably to kind of a roving role, that means that's a pretty good ball player there you got at second base.
So, Steven, naturally I'm going to follow up and ask why Elly De La Cruz.
That was what my question was going to be.
He's not on the list.
Are you going to try and fight him through the screen because you didn't put your favorite player on this list?
I feel like I deserve it. The upside is off the charts. Obviously, he had some strikeout issues in the second half of the year, but I mean, the tools are off the charts, and you can also add any other players that you really had a hard time with, because I know you were struggling with Elly, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. I barely slept this week. So Elly De La Cruz, the constraints I put in is you had to be a position you played last year. He played third, short, and DH. So third base, Gunnar Henderson. I'm not putting him over Gunnar Henderson this year. Now, are we talking long run? Yeah, I think Elly De La Cruz will be incredible. But if I'm picking just for 2024, who I think is going to be the better, most valuable player this year at each position, I'm also not putting him over Bobby Witt. I think Bobby showed us last year that he's on that next step. And we have Trent Rosecrans covers the Reds for us. And that's a story that not to tell everyone what he's working on, but he just talked to Bobby Witt about Elly De La Cruz, about what's it like to be in that position where you struggle to kind of get your wheels going. And then you're able to make that huge leap the next year. Well, Bobby's shown this proof of concept, right? He's done it, and he got all the money in the world, so he's going to keep doing it. And so De La Cruz is one where I just need to see a little bit more before I start him over even a Royce Lewis at DH. Royce Lewis, when he's played, has just mashed baseballs, and so I'm betting on him doing it again. So Elly De La Cruz could come out of this with a higher WAR, better numbers than half these guys. But right now, I just need to see it. And if he were a second baseman, if you're eligible there, maybe I'd take him over the Edouard Julien, Matt McLain, Zach Geloff conversation I was having.
Okay, so Scott's mad at you because Steven.
Well, Julien's on infield on that list.
He's a second baseman, so he's an infielder. So yes, he's in the infield.
I know, but
I could have put him at infield. Yeah, I could have put him at infield over Julien. I just have a soft spot for guys who get on base at like a 400 clip. What Julien does, I think, is pretty impressive.
Don't come down to Scott's level, okay?
You don't have to answer to Scott.
Do not. Everyone else has to answer to Scott. You do not.
Walks and on base are overrated, you said.
Oh my gosh, I never said that. You're just being stupid now. Let's shift gears because Scott's going to start crying over here. Bobby Miller's the one pitcher, right, for the Dodgers. He's very important for the Dodgers. Not only was he important last year, but this year he's probably going to be even more important. Is he the best pitcher you think starting potential? I know Grayson turned it on after he went down. Brian Bayo, we saw we could do. Yuri Perez, he's had some injury problems a little bit here. Gavin Williams, we'll see. But, I mean, is Bobby Miller like the most important guy pitching-wise on this entire list?
I put that name down first. There were 0 questions on my list of boxes he needed to check for me to pick him here. Yuri Perez, I mean, he has probably the highest ceiling of all these guys, but we already know he's going to be on an innings limit this year. We don't know quite how much production we're going to have. And also, the pressure on this guy is immense at 20 years old, whereas Bobby Miller, you need him to come and be like a number 5 or a number 4. And long run, you're going to have Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Tyler Glasnow all at your side for the next X amount of years, long time. And Bobby Miller's right there. He can pitch himself into an ace, but if he turns into a really good number 3, that's fine too. And so he's already there. He had an incredible season last year. He's got every trick in the bag as far as pitch mix. He's got velocity, and he had command last year. If that holds, I think you could see this guy absolutely take off because, again, there isn't a ton of pressure on him. I think there's not a big weight on his shoulders.
You had mentioned, you kind of glossed over Gavin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
His stuff at the top of the zone is crazy. But another Indian starter coming out of the minor leagues. Does it actually play? Because he doesn't. Sorry, Guardians starter coming out of the minor leagues. Does it actually play? Did the changes that he made with limiting his walks, is it something that's sustainable for him, which he did, I think, in his last 4 or 5 starts?
Yeah. It was kind of streaky with his command. And talking to our Guardians writer, Zach Meisel, he thinks, I think similarly, with this guy has that ace type of ceiling, and the Guardians have shown they can just churn out these guys, right? Whether you thought this guy was an ace when you drafted him, they can turn him into something very similar to that. The one thing I'm looking at beyond the command, which I think he's sort of got a handle on, he's working in the right direction, is whether he can have some out pitch to get lefties out. If you look at his splits, I don't have them in front of me right now, but they were pretty drastic to the point where I was like, I'm suddenly shakier on him than I was just looking at surface stats. So if he can get an out pitch against lefties, I think he could shoot through that division for many years to come.
Hey, let me ask you why this guy didn't make the team. I can tell you his name. I'm going to let you guess who he is. 10-4, 2.98 ERA, 25 games started.
Okay, who is that?
Tanner Bybee. Why the hell didn't he make the team? That's pretty good. 10-4. He's 24 years old. He's 24.
I know. Okay, so here's the problem. I said 24 on opening day. He turns 25 on March 5th, so he wasn't eligible. He would be there.
Damn it. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
All right, understood.
You missed it.
You're like everybody in the comment section. The comment section every year just turns into people saying Adley Rutschman, and it's like he's 26. Okay.
Yeah, it's happening.
But Tanner Bybee's 24.
It's happening right now live.
True.
There's people throwing out names, and some of them are okay, but many of them are 26, and it does not.
And there's no shame.
26
is just fine. There's no shame in being 26, but unfortunately, I got to cut you off at the 25th birthday.
Okay, understood.
Bryson Stott, I'm sorry, you are 26. You're
I just
old.
looked at the stats. When I looked up, I'm like, dang, Gavin Williams over Tanner Bybee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Tanner Bybee did pretty well. He finished top 3 in the Rookie of the Year, and he did pretty well for him.
Steven has standards.
Yeah,
like I said,
it's opening day standards.
Good
like
for
I
you.
said, the Guardians know how to turn out those aces. So
Oh wait, when did the Dodgers and the Padres play? Maybe our opening day is before March 5th, and we can slide by in there. I'm just kidding.
That's
I know
true.
it's later.
Hey, Steven, let's finish with this. What was the number one kind of consensus comment you got back, whether it was positive or negative? Just what did you get out of the reaction this time around?
The most common one I've gotten is people stumping for Hunter Green, who was on this list last year, may have been on it the year before as well. I had both Green and Reed Detmers on it last year and didn't have either of them this year. I think it's a fair conversation to have. That was the one I sort of debated back and forth the most, was picking Brian Bayo. Completely different profiles as far as pitching goes. And Hunter Green could be fantastic. He's just had injury problems in both of his majors and years in the majors. And he's a guy who's had a more elevated ERA, which you're going to see being in Cincinnati, a little prone to the home run ball. So I just think Bayo's more of a sure thing as a ground ball guy who's got, a little bit more, I think, in his arsenal that could work at a place like Fenway, and had more success, getting lefties out. I think is going to be a bit better. He worked with Pedro Martinez this offseason. Good mentor to have. So that was the one debate that I had the most, and people generally all disagreed with me that Hunter Green should not be on this list.
I think for me personally with Green, the upside is a 1, but you need a third pitch at some point, don't you? Even Spencer Strider's working on a third pitch right now. Did you guys see that?
Curving ball. He's throwing a curving ball now.
Curving. But yeah, that to me is the difference maker. You have 2 nasty pitches, but can you get a better changeup going or add a curveball like Strider? So I'm with you.
Right.
You played it a little safe at times, Steven, because some of these guys that are like high risk, high reward were left off so that you could get your consistent WAR numbers and kind of stack it up. Like this team on here has a very high floor, in addition, obviously, the potential that we're seeing.
A lot of people are saying, Vlad Guerrero's 20. They're like, he's 24. I'm like, well, opening day.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're not.
But Kratz's favorite player, Christopher Morel, isn't on there, and he's only 24.
Yeah, he got honorable mention at DH.
Oh,
I can't pick him over. I can't pick him over Royce Lewis, dude. Royce Lewis is in the times he's shown us and the sample he's shown us is an outrageously good hitter. Like I'm talking like MVP talks if he can play healthy and play at third base for a whole season.
Well,
Byron Buxton.
Same thing, yeah, same dude.
Yeah. What?
Sorry, Twins.
Well, that's just what they said. That's just what they said about Byron Buxton for years. If he could just stay on the field.
Man, there's been a lot of dudes over the years. If he could just stay on the field, talk.
That's why the Twins traded AJ. He stayed on the field.
That's right. That's right.
I think those are 2 different cases in my mind, though. Buxton's dealing with chronic injuries. I don't think.
Well, Royce Lewis tore his ACL twice.
Yeah,
that's not chronic.
That's a chronic ACL.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I'm buying more stock in Royce Lewis health than I am in
Royce Lewis
Byron Buxton.
Stud, bro.
The last injury for Lewis was in center field. Remember, he got called up. They're like, all right, let's try center field now. Dude, and then he retore the ACL. Dude, I love Royce Lewis.
He's a good kid too, man, to talk to. He smiles and smiles.
Seems like he has so much fun. And the thing, I think you wrote it in your article, Steven. He hit like 278 on every pitch. Like it was like 278, 303 on fastballs, and like 310 on changeups and splitters. Like just an incredible mix. Like a guy that just hits. He hits, and we're watching absolute rockets that he's hitting too.
Yeah, I didn't have that in here, but I'm looking at Statcast page. Yeah, you're right. Like 4-seamer is one of the best hitters in the game by run value. Slider, huge plus. Sinker was all over it. Yeah, if he can hit, especially hit righties like that, I think his numbers are gonna be huge. Just stay healthy, dude. Just stay healthy.
Last thing I just remember, who was it saying that there was tipping in that Blue Jays Twins game?
My God,
and then
A-Rod. He's like, Gosman. The only dude that could hit him was Royce Lewis.
And then we bring on Jace Tingler, right? Was it Jace? And we're like, was he tipping? And he was like, no. He's like, Royce just fucking crushed it. He
gave up 2 hits in there, both to Royce Lewis.
Royce Lewis knows. Nobody else.
We asked Gosman. He came on afterwards. He's like, oh yeah, I was tipping, but only Royce could see it.
Yeah. Kratz, you know why Royce has so much fun playing baseball? Because when you hit like that, it's always fun to go to the ballpark.
It's always. You want to play too.
Mickey was living the life.
Exactly. I would have been smiling too if I could hit like that.
Yeah. Well, Steven, this was awesome. Again, for everyone watching, you can check out the article in The Athletic and follow Steven. We'll post some of these clips too to get an idea of what you're getting when you click in. But for a lot more information, go to The Athletic. Steven, great to talk to you, man.
You too, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Steven Nesbitt with us on FT Live. Okay.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.